Beloved Creator of everything that is and ever will be, we join one another on the precipice of a new, rather renewed nation, perhaps not as originally designed, but not to the exact T, perhaps as originally intended, and probably not perfect, but nonetheless a long-planned and well-orchestrated movement to eviscerate the fraud and the usury heaped upon us by a death cult for more than 100 years. Actions taken from this point in time may seem aggressive, even cruel, but it is tough love and deserved retribution for the insidious and heinous crimes that have been perpetrated and perpetuated on the people worldwide for far too long. Worst of all, upon our precious innocent children, unspeakable crimes, crimes for which there can only be facing into them and the unthinkable pain, a pain so horrific we must drop to our knees and ask forgiveness that we have been so unaware for so long. While facing our own innocence and our ignorance, we plead for greater consciousness, and we cry out that they suffer no more. Now that we know, and others among us must learn, that this evil blight perpetrated by the darkest among us, and even those we assumed to be innocent or on the correct side of things, we must hold firm. There will be no tolerance nor sparing for those who have harmed God's little children. For this we weep. For this we ask for quick correction and swift and thorough elimination of this low vibration to exit this dimension. There is much work to be done to clean up the depravity and the long straying from humility, civility, kindness, and compassion. We ourselves are here to reclaim all that which is good and holy as fully and faithfully as humanly possible. And we do it in the name of Jesus and in the name of our beloved Creator. Let it be so, and so it is.
Hello, my name's Ron Vroom, and I'm the old white man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. I'm going to start this off with a joke, or at least something funny to me anyway. I'm 86 years old. I haven't been in a fist fight since I was 65. So you can tell that I am not a violent person anymore. I am much better. But they find me disruptive, and that's every place I go. The VA, Salem, all of the sheriffs that we visit, they don't like my attitude, and I don't care. But years ago, when I was 65, like I said, on Oregon, we used to not pump our gas. I don't know what they do now. I haven't bought gas in a long time. But they had people, attendants, to pump the gas. So when there was too many cars for the numbers of pumps, you had to wait in line or some form of a line. People knew who was next. And I was sitting there on the Arco station on the corner of Murray and Beaverton Hillsdale Highway and waiting for my turn. And the car that I was to replace at the pump pulled away. But before I started my car and drove into that spot, a fellow drove his car into that spot and parked it. And the guy pumping isn't paying any attention. He's pumping gas. And so he walked away from his car, and he knew I was next because he looked straight at me and gave me the finger. And so I took my car and drove around the station and parked in the parking space for people using the store. And I walked into the store where the cashier was. And as I walked in, there was only two people there. One was the clerk. So I went over and got a cup of water and went over to stand in line behind the fellow that threw me the bird. And just as I did that, the guy handling the cashier, he stepped outside. And when he stepped outside, I poured the water over this fella's head. Now, at that time, I was 6 feet tall and 185 pounds. I'm 5'8" and 160 now. And that's another story. But anyhow, I poured it over his head. And that irritated him, and he swung on me. And he missed, but I didn't miss. And I punched that man until he fell down on the ground. And when he fell down on the floor, until he fell down onto the floor. And when he fell down onto the floor, I kicked him and I stomped him. And after I did that, I turned around to walk out. And as I was walking out, the clerk walked in and he says, "What's going on here?" And I said, "He fell down." And I walked out, got in my car, and left. Now, nothing ever happened regarding that altercation. So I think the statutes of limitations have run out. But to me, it was delightful. I love every time I think of that, I love it. So now I have business to attend to. Our civilian common law court of record for Oregon statewide Jural Assembly, the de jure provisional government on Oregon, held a grand jury and heard the evidence. That was grand jury number 9. We've been doing this since 2018. And the grand jury heard the evidence from our court of record, and others, such as those here, were invited to be present and to testify on several issues. But let's see, such as, but not limited to, number 1, sheriffs without proper oaths. Number 2, funds from sheriff's auctions. Number 3, smart meters. Number 4, Oregon State Police. That's the bunch that murdered Robert Lavoy Finnegan with the aid of the FBI. We show that murder on every one of our videos. Number 5, Article 7, pre and post November 8th, 1910. That's critical on Oregon. Article 7 amended changed the judiciary, and they changed the judiciary in favor of attorneys who have since become the Oregon State Bar. And it's not for the people, it's for the attorneys. That's why they made Article 7 amended, and it's bogus. And then number 6, the current Secretary of State, we have a new one now, for the state of Oregon's inability to show our de jure Oregon statehood document circa 1859. They cannot prove their bona fides. 7, 5G deployed without proper authority. 8, fluoride added to our water. 9, the Oregon State Bar as a governance entity. It is. They wrote it into the Constitution. And 10, the Department of Corrections. Several de facto courts and agents and other governance entities not honoring 1, writ of habeas corpus ad subjiciendum, and 2, writ of mandamus. Now, all of those were taken into consideration by the grand jury, and all of them came back with the true bill. That's what happened a few months ago. The grand jury happened, and the trial juries happened. Verdicts were found. For an example, what do we do with those occupying the office of sheriff without the proper bona fides? Nick Hunter, sheriff on Marion County, is the current leader with the paper we got from the Office of Records Bill Burgess. That reminds me, we must visit Bill Burgess about his bona fides. This is not attorney speak. This is from the people on Oregon. We must face our accusers. We must not hide and not defend our positions. I'm told that the Oregon State Police, the Oregon Department of Justice, and the DAs and others of that ilk do not want our sheriffs to look us in the eye and defend their position. How can that be? Kate Brown was passed from our grand jury to our trial jury with a true bill. So was Tina Kotek. Kate was the former governor, and Tina is the current one. There is no claim of simulating illegal action against our www.orsja.org. That's us. How can that be? We're still standing. We have a copy of Nick Hunter's oath. We got it from our Marion County Recorder's office. It fails, Nick. At least there was one in file. Several counties do not have an oath from their sheriff on file for our perusal. DPSST, that's Oregon's school for police officers, LEOs. They refuse to stand and deliver what their obligations required. We know. We are here, and we have been for several times. They do not abide by DPSST, and it fails repeatedly. None of us are responsible for Article 7 amended. That was done in 1910. We are responsible for correcting that, which cannot be supported. The entire Oregon legislature broke their oath January 21, 2021, except for Mike Newman. Yet they maintain color law on Salem. How can that be? You must do it yourself. No one can do it for you, and we cannot do it alone. Only our office of sheriff, when occupied by a legitimate sheriff with all their bona fides in order as a written declaration, can occupy the office. Lawfully with honor is the function of our sheriff. Anything less is failure. How can that be? All 36 fail. The city of Portland is a subdivision of the county of Multnomah, is a subdivision of the state of Oregon, is a subdivision of the United States of Washington District of Columbia. That's not a constitutional Republican form of government. We have that document from the taking of the land for the Marco Hatfield Federal Building. That is not a constitutional Republican form of government. How can that be? We actually did the work 6.5 years ago, and we've done it without rebuttal. How can that be? Every office of sheriff is required to fulfill the requirements of the office. When they cannot stand and deliver and stand and receive with, for, by, from, Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 1 of Oregon's Constitution, we declare that all men, when they form a social compact, we actually did that, are equal in right, that all power is, is inherent in the people, and that all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, and they have at all times the right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper. And they fail. But we're not. We are not the enemy. We are doing what our sheriff is obligated to provide peace, safety, and happiness for, to, with. That's their job for us. The U.S. DOJ, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Marine Corps, the state of Oregon, aka all caps state of Oregon, the Oregon State Police, 36 sheriffs, 38 prosecutors, the Oregon National Guard, the Oregon State Police, the legislative and judiciary and executive has had ample opportunity to take action. There has been none. How can that be? Do you not see what we see? How can that be? Therefore, a proper meeting is required between all of us represented by Article 1, Section 1, Article 3, Amendment 7, Article 7, Civilian Common Law Court of Record. You will be called soon. Please cooperate. This is an after action report. This is an after action report from the Salem Oligarchy, January 24th, 2025. Geyer, the court administrator wearing a black robe for the bogus Article 7 amended, threatened me twice with contempt and once with jail. The two rent-a-cops provided by Nick Hunter put their hands on me and told me I must stand because Geyer came into the room. WTF. That is a due process violation. There were 7 witnesses. This was advertised as a hearing. I was told if I spoke again, I would be jailed. It seems I am categorized as disruptive. Our director told me we would go much further without me. That's what they told her. I misread that. They told Charlie that we'd go a lot further if they got rid of me. I don't agree with that. There is a claim of cognizance filed into our court, and it has been acquiesced to, so it stands as fact. Tony Devine is not in your jurisdiction, and neither am I, nor is anyone in our Article 3, Amendment 7 Civilian Common Law Court of Record, nor is anyone that is a man or woman on the land and soil jurisdiction on Oregon. A public record demand or request, if you prefer, is sent in to Commander Landers, a form for me to use to start the claim against the two rent-a-cops, Marquin and Martin. Also, identify your risk management agent. Next, from the Office of Sheriff for Marion County, I need the paperwork, instructions, methods, controls, and procedures for a civilian arrest on Marion County. It seems the sheriff will not do the job, so there's provisions for civilian arrest. We want to know exactly how to do it. Linda, she's the trial court administrator, sent James to see me yesterday. Not cool. Linda knew we were coming, and she failed to provide For Amendment 1, petition for redress of grievance. We are not there to be friends. She knows why we're coming, and she refused to see us and sent an underling. That is a due process violation. And for the third time, we've been at that door, knocking on it and pressing the button, talking to a speaker, and being ignored. Except yesterday they sent James. This requires a claim to risk management from Oregon. The person, Geyer, the administrator for Article 7 amended, violated due process and will be reported to DAS. Then we met Michael Kaplan, and he failed to provide access to the state archives. The Secretary of State was advised we were coming. The paper pasted on the door states that 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, the hours of operation now require an appointment. That denial of access during regular business hours is a due process violation. That goes to DAS risk management also. There is no COVID now. That BS is bogus and is another due process violation for DAS. I also noticed that you no longer use your pronouns. Yeah, Mike gave me a card when he was over at Treasury. He had pronouns on it and he had his card punched with Braille. I wonder how many blind people he gave his card to. That was for Treasury only. His card now is for Secretary of State, and he's the Deputy Secretary of State. He's no longer the number 2 guy at Treasury. He follows Tobias Reed from job to job. I noticed a change in jurisdictions on the cards also. Some of these cards are their name at, this one is sos.oregon.gov. Some of them are oregon.state.or.us. There's a difference in jurisdiction there, I'm pretty sure. So we have 6.5 years of doing one step at a time. And every step we've taken has proven so far to be correct. If it wasn't correct, they would retaliate against us. We push them all day, every day. Right now, we're pushing them on 7 counties. No, 9 counties. We're pushing them on 9 counties. And each county will fail or pass those exams that are required of sheriffs. A sheriff, according to ORS 206, must do certain things before they fill the office of sheriff. And all 36 of them on Oregon have failed. That has to be attended to. This is a plea for people that will actually do the work. I was talking to a woman that was telling me we need to actually grow big and strong. And the problem with that is, and it's been identified as a fact, it just works out over huge hierarchies. The square root of the base does 50% of the work. Therefore, if you get 100 people 50% of the work of that entire group will be done by 10. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. When you have 200 people, the square root of 200 is 14. You add 100 people to the first 100 people, and the square root of that number still does 50% of the work. So you add 100 people and you add 4 workers. That gives you 96 people that give you problems because they're not working to their ability. 96 of them get 50% of the work done. And I really think that 96% spends most of their time trying to figure out how they can get that other 14 to do all the work. And I yield.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. And then he jumps out of the car. And he's got both his hands up. And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, just shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.